Toxapex is one of the most disliked, reviled, despised Pokemon in competitive history for its antics in Generation 7 and 8. Although it would have earned this title far before Gen 8's release, it was so obnoxious ever since day one of Sun and Moon. It's incredibly irritating in part because it's so seemingly impossible to stop from doing its thing, even when you know it's coming. This is the mark of an elite Pokemon, of course. However, sometimes it can be confusing. After all, Toxapex has its flaws, and they are not insignificant. It's never going to surprise you, and it's incredibly slow, weak, and hits super effectively by common attacks like Ground, Electric, and Psychic. How then does it manage to remain so endlessly insufferable? Yes, you can say Regenerator is amazing / broken, but that doesn't paint the full picture of what makes Toxapex so amazing. We'll be breaking down each of Pex's attributes and analyzing how they come together to create one of the most universally hated Pokemon to ever exist in OU. Let's start with the basics. Toxapex typing. Water poison is loaded with useful resistances, as is the case with any water type. Sure, it's a bulky water weak to earthquake, but it's also a bulky water neutral to grass, which is utterly enormous. Its resistances to fighting and fairy, as well as the toxic immunity and toxic spikes absorption, and even U-turn resistance it gains as a result of the poison typing are significant boons as well. Tentacruel has already proved water poison to be a superb defensive typing in the past, mostly in Generation 5, but Toxapex took it to the next level by virtue of its utterly enormous bulk which maximized what it could get out of its typing. With Pokemon, defensive ones especially, it's not just about what you resist, it's also about what you're neutral to, and with its titanic bulk, Toxapex puts its neutralities to hard-hitting moves like Greninja Specs Dark Pulse to excellent use. Toxapex's bulk is so enormous in fact that even powerful stabs, super effective attacks don't come close to knocking it out. Quite famously, max attack Landorus Therian's Earthquake practically bounces off. Pex stays in and takes such astonishingly powerful hits with minimal impediment to its walling ability. Why? Because of Regenerator, of course. It's what makes dealing with Toxapex such a tightrope act. You can't just hit it really hard once and be done with it. You have to hit it really hard over and over and over again, contending with the fact that it's going to heal by switching out, to say nothing of how much it gains if it actually uses Recover. And there's not that many Pokemon that really threaten Toxapex, especially without being threatened themselves in return, but we'll get to that later. For now, we focus on not just Regenerator, but Recover as well, which makes Toxapex incredibly resilient and repeatedly devouring all sorts of hits again and again and again. The Regen-Recover combination is so good at keeping Toxapex healthy, it doesn't even necessarily need Black Sludge's passive recovery. Obviously, the item goes a long way in enhancing Toxapex's hit-taking ability in both the long and short term. However, the flexibility in its item slot without losing much effectiveness in that hit-taking ability allows Toxapex to do even more amazing things. For example, in Generation 7, running Payapa Berry allowed it to withstand powerful psychic attacks from major threats in Tapu Lele and the mega trio of Alakazam, Latios, and Medicham, letting Toxapex safely toxic them and put them on a timer. This was absolutely game-changing. Alternatively, Toxapex could throw on a Shed Shell, allowing it to safely switch into Heatran's Magma Storm, then pivot out to a teammate on the follow-up Taunt or Earth Power. Rocky Helmet was another excellent tool Toxapex could use to play offensive while on defense. This segues into the last piece of the Toxapex puzzle, the fact that it's actually quite threatening offensively. Sure, it's not firing off huge base power stabs from high attacking stats, but it does deliver crippling damage. It may be indirect damage, but it's incredibly important and difficult to deal with. There are plenty of Pokemon that are great walls with great longevity. What prevents them from ascending the Toxapex level is their inability to threaten the opponent once they actually hit the field. When Toxapex does so, however, it has a bevy of highly irritating options that only a limited number of Pokemon can answer safely, making both team building and in-battle choices against Pex highly restrictive. Scald is its most immediate, obvious tool, ensuring that many of the physical attackers that would hit it super effectively, such as Landorus Therian, Garchomp, Kyurem Black, Mega Mawile, and Mega Medicham, won't want to switch in at all. This is a running theme in dealing with Toxapex in general. The few Pokemon that hit it hard don't actually want to switch into its attacks, because they risk a burn, which leads to bulkier Pokemon like Clefable and Gliscor being used to switch into it instead, which leads to slower games. Incidentally, this is why Mega Alakazam is so unique and effective in Generation 7. It's an enormous offensive threat which traces Toxapex's Regenerator, allowing it to switch in over and over again even if it gets statused, especially since it also runs Recover. Mega Alakazam is by and large the exception though. Beyond Scald, Toxapex is famous for its Toxic Spikes, which cripple a vast majority of OU's grounded Pokemon. It can also run Toxic to great effect. It allows it to poison both Pokemon it can't burn, like Mega Charizard X and the Pokemon that evade Toxic Spikes in one way or another, be it Heavy Duty Boots in Generation 8, a levitating or flying Pokemon, or being paired with a teammate that absorbs Toxic Spikes, like opposing Toxapex. As if that wasn't bad enough, Toxapex also slices into the opponent's longevity with knockoff. Suddenly leftovers or heavy duty boots are no more. Furthermore, Toxapex can utilize its signature move Baneful Bunker to amazing effect. Suddenly Mega Medicham can't actually attack if it's facing Toxapex 1-on-1, or it's poisoned and put on a timer. Bunker also punishes seemingly safe moves like U-turn from Tornadus Therian or Landorus Therian, and even has a defensive benefit allowing Toxapex to safely grab extra Black Sludge recovery. This is especially useful when facing a Dark Pulse spamming Choice Specs Greninja. Of course, Toxapex is also blessed with Haze, ensuring you can't just boost your offensive stats until you can break through it. All in all, Toxapex is a pain because it switches in with absurd ease. It walls such a huge portion of the metagame repeatedly, effortlessly over the course of an extended battle, with its enormous bulk, great typing, recover, regenerator, and even haze. Furthermore, once it's in, it's a major pain to deal with. It's a testament to the power of passive damage that its arsenal of Scald, Toxic Spikes, Toxic, and Knockoff is so challenging to deal with safely. It is also excellent at dealing with common counterattacking measures via Haze and Baneful Bunker, both of which enhance its walling ability as well. It was a relief to nearly everyone to hear the news that Toxapex had been nerfed to the point of being a shell of its former self in Generation 9. No more Scald, the loss of Knockoff, and the fact that Recover was now only 8 PP means Toxapex is now a worse wall and much easier to deal with. Well, you would think, right? It's still a top tier Pokemon in OU, ranked A on the viability rankings, and Terastallization gives it new ways to deal with Pokemon it might not be able to beat due to Scald loss. Most recently in a tournament, Toxapex terastallized to a fighting type in Terrablast King Gambit, knocking it out. The memory of Toxapex preying on Generation 7 and 8 of OU is still fresh for many. Hopefully this video has captured and illuminated just why it feels so frustratingly unkillable in those two metagames which immortalized it. If you did enjoy this video, make sure you let me know by leaving a like and subscribe to the channel, and check out my previous video on why Aegislash is perfect.